So it's a dark and gloomy and windy, rainy day. So I figure I'm going to spend the day making more of those lemongrass summer rolls for my last catered event at Cinefest tomorrow. And I thought this was a great opportunity for me to take my time, kind of perfect the process so I can write everything down and then give you guys the recipe. So we made the dressing in the last video. I took some of the extra dressing and I added little extra pieces of lemongrass. Remember I told you to take the inside of it? So that's in there. And I took some of the cooked chicken and shredded it up. It's been chilled and I added some of that dressing into the chicken, so it's already pre-moistened. Because you don't want anything to dry out, because the whole thing about these rice paper rolls, you have to work quickly and everything needs to be moist. So I will show you from this perspective as well as on the board so you have a close-up. So the standard rice paper rolls are usually in round shape. They come in packages of sometimes 20 to 50 depending on the size of them and where you're getting them from. But we're going to make them in almost cone shape, which means I need half of this. So this is where the floor can get kind of messy. So I snapped it in half. Now I have two halves, so it's going to make two rolls. So I have a dish here of warm water, not too hot or else it's going to soften too quickly. If you do anything too cold, it'll just take forever for it to soften. So you want to wait until it's nice and soft. And while that's softening, the other thing I did were these are the pre-cooked rice vermicelli noodles. You can get them with spinach coloring, so they're almost like a pale green. I think there's other colors you can get, but mostly the white are the standard ones. So once they were cooked and cooled, I just tossed them a little bit of rice vinegar and some vegetable oil just to sort of loosen them up and give them a touch of flavor. So those are there. I have vegetables that are pre-cut in little strips. So I have some orange pepper I had in the fridge and some carrot, and then I have some cucumber for crunch, and then of course the chicken that I mentioned. So as soon as this is softened, now you end up with this cool little moist sheet. Okay, so you're going to flatten that out on your cutting board. Now, first thing you're going to do is put the noodles like this. And then you're going to put the chicken. You don't want to overfill these things because they are, it can only hold so much, and then it's kind of hard to eat, especially if you're walking around, because that's what your guests at cocktail parties usually doing. So there's a cucumber, and there's a pepper, and then there's carrot. Now, this is where the folding and the rolling comes in handy. So essentially we're going to roll it so it goes this way. So you're going to roll it by holding onto the middle and kind of putting most of the pressure with your thumbs on this back end. So you're focusing the tightest part of the roll in the center, which is the bottom of the cone, right? Ta-da! So now it's a little cone. So if you remember, I had those little plastic cones that you saw in pictures. So now it can sit in there. I took those little plastic cones though and I sprayed the inside of them just quickly with just a classic vegetable oil cooking spray, just so that these things, because they do get sticky when they dry out a little bit, I put those inside that cone. Now the other thing, just before we're ready for service, the other stage thing that caterers always need to do, because we're doing this in advance, by the time we get there, even if these are stored in really great plastic containers and with plastic wrap and everything, they still tend to dry out a little bit. So we take a little bit of the dressing and we just drizzle it on the top of it once they're all in their cones just before service. And then including that, just to make it a little bit more fun, I have these little pipettes that are look like little eyedroppers, and I have filled them with fresh pineapple juice. And those are tucked in behind each of the rolls. So now when someone's walking around, if they're finding it still a little dry and they want to have a little sweetness to it, they can just drizzle some pineapple juice on. It's just fun when it's a little bit more interactive. So these little cones can be done, like I said, a couple of days in advance. They will dry out a little bit, so make sure that when you're putting them in containers in your fridge to layer them with parchment paper, wax paper, and then a really good tight lid, because you just don't want these things to dry out, because then of course they're going to go back to their regular state, right? And then you end up with a little crunchiness, which is not the whole idea. So you don't have to just do chicken and the noodles and the vegetables like I did. If you want to do a strictly vegetarian one, you can just do standard vegetables. If you do want to add in some protein, some tofu sticks are a great, you can cut them in little strips. That can also be in there, just add a little bit of extra protein, and that tofu will actually absorb the flavor of that dressing really well as well. Probably even more so than the chicken, but just don't tell anybody people like chicken. So these are kind of fun things to do with using up leftovers. If you do a classic roll, which just meaning you kind of roll it like a burrito, you fold the insides in and roll it that way. Make sure you roll it tight. You can cut those in half, and that's a great, something fun to send for kids to school, getting kind of bored, maybe of regular sandwiches later this fall. But aside from that, these things are really inexpensive. So the rice paper rolls, as well as the most of the fillings, are all things that you would normally maybe have in your pantry. So it's kind of a good way to use up leftovers. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I'm going to include the recipe in a post coming up shortly on the Facebook channel, as well as there will be a link under the YouTube video, which will take you directly to the website, and you can see it there. Hopefully that you kind of learned something about all the different processes. As much as I was catering a little bit this week, I love doing it at Cinefest. I loved seeing the old Cinefest regulars who are still there after all these years. It was fun to feed them again. But it's surprising how much work goes into even catering for 50 or 60 people, doing 6 or 7 appetizers like that for each day. And it's one of those things when I'm doing other things, you really have to sort of schedule yourself, and different things have to be done in different stages. But because I've learned all these tricks, and I'm always willing to help out other businesses, if you're watching this prior to September 24th, I will be having a How to Start a Catering Business seminar in Sudbury. It's Monday, September 24th, and I will probably be repeating it maybe early in the new year. So if you've ever had the urge to take some of your cooking talents and actually start making some money off them, I know what you'll need to do a home-based one, what you need for other venues. I know which niches are working in Sudbury, and I know who is asking for caterers, because I keep getting asked and I'm too busy to do them. So by more businesses popping up, or if you're a restaurant or cafe owner and you want to add on catering services to your business, I think that's something that's always going to be in need, and especially with the holiday season coming up. So I'm sharing all my secrets on Monday. So hopefully we'll see you then. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and maybe next time there's a big event and I'm doing a little bit of catering or special events, I'll take those videos too. Enjoy your weekend.